Really scary stories, every day. Subscribe, like if you like, turn on the bell so you don't miss new videos.
I, the neighbor with the button. The shop's last months tasted like stale coffee and dust that never fully settled. That's where I met her, Elena, first as a customer with exact change and a smile that arrived half a second too early, then as a regular who learned the rhythm of my steps. We were two late-shift people mistaking proximity for compatibility. She treated my worst jokes like secrets, I treated her persistence like kindness because the Kinder story is easier to cook and easier to eat. Before either of us said, dating, warnings stacked like receipts I refused to total. Elena sat through entire shifts in the waiting area without pretending to read a magazine. Her eyes didn't track the room, they tracked me, as steady as a cat with a goldfish. She texted from the parking lot to comment on my pallor, my posture, my cough. She learned my break and began arriving 5 minutes early with a drink I didn't ask for, labeling it a surprise as if surprises are always gifts. Attention has a way of disguising itself as care until it starts to bite. Sugar turned to syrup, and syrup went brittle. My phone behaved like a trapped bird. For minutes in the restroom equaled 20-something notifications and an argument primed for ignition. Questions showed up that weren't really questions. Who are you with? Why didn't you pick up? What are you hiding? Evenings became audits, game nights turned into court dates without a judge. I grew quieter, thinking silence was a refuge. It was only another leash, snug and invisible. When I said, "We're done," Elena heard pause. She set herself at the exit like a checkpoint. Her voice slid between gentle and command like a switchblade finding another notch. Twice she dropped into my passenger seat and blocked the door with a lawsuit she invented from fog. "If you don't finish this conversation, I'll have Dad file tomorrow. He knows a guy." The phantom paperwork held me better than her hands could have. The night talk became touch. We were in her sedan in front of a dark lobby. I reached for the handle, her thumb beat me to the lock. Her fingers clamped my forearm with a pressure that felt practiced. Righteousness lives in the face differently than anger, all bright eyes and thin mouth, a signature across the features that says the world owes you a shape. That signature scared me more than the squeeze. I'm bigger, but surprise makes strength useless. I pushed her back into her seat, not a throw, an unpinning, popped the lock, and stepped out into air that smelled like ozone before rain. Driving home, the road felt new, as if my tires were laying it down for the first time. Elena lived close enough to reshelve coincidence as routine. After midnight a car idled by the curb long enough for my brain to subtract it. The game in my headset wrote noise for me to hide in. Then, a tap at glass. One nail. One whisper, my name, shaped like a favor. The blinds in my office might as well be lace. Any light at all and I become a cutout someone can study. The tapping became knuckles, knuckles became fists. My name stretched thin and mean. Instincts lit like pilot lights. Rules I'd never said out loud assembled in a line: don't open, don't answer, don't narrate. I broke the first because part of me still believed the world listens to polite people. 2 inches of window felt like control, room to close, room to breathe. You can't be here, I said and tried to believe it. I left my sweater, she said, small as a child at a lost and found. Let me grab it and I'll go. Mercy is a shape some people use as a key. Leave, I said. Or I call the police. Sadness, howl, hammer, 3 faces of the same mask flicked past like cards. I leaned back from the gap, and that movement widened my view just enough. Elena wasn't alone. To the left, a hooded figure bled into the sycamore's scarred trunk, a person trying very hard to be a shadow. Elena saw my eyes move. She lunged for my wrist like a trap springing, nails found skin. The hood broke stillness and sprinted toward the window with hands not raised to strike, but spread to help, to hold, to haul me farther open. Thought turned off, hinge turned on. I dropped the sash onto her forearm with the full argument of wood and gravity. The scream cut off the way tape stops. The runner hit the pane a heartbeat later, features smearing into the reflection, intent clear. I slapped the lock, shoved my lit phone against the glass, 911 pulsing like a lighthouse, and heard tires peel. The car left too fast for numbers. My heart ran after it for 5 blocks. The officer who took my statement carried a careful weariness, like he knew exactly how thin the ice is between almost and was. No entry, no property, no strike, he summarized, which is the kind of sentence that keeps a report clean while leaving a person dirty with adrenaline. They circled, they asked, they left me with advice that doesn't fail so much as it assumes a fair opponent. By morning the picture was flat enough to pin to a wall. She'd come with a second pair of hands and a script that relied on my playing nice. Maybe the endgame was my phone or my wallet. Maybe it was my face. Either way, Act 1 was me, opening. New rule, now spoken, when anything knocks after midnight with a voice that wants softness, remember, bait does the talking. Hooks keep quiet. I added external lights, taught my doorbell to be a sentry, and changed the furniture against the window so my chair no longer reported my silhouette to the street. I learned the neighborhood anew, which cars belong, which don't, which raccoons are too bold, which footsteps move like they own the sidewalk. Fear is a bad roommate, but it pays attention. And attention, redirected, can be a lock you carry in your hands. 2. The hand under the bedclothes. Call me Ava. I keep the name the way you keep a houseplant, something alive to tend while you're trying to make other things grow back. If I sound thin around the edges, it's because night has been busy lately, rearranging the furniture in my head. Dane and I had a year advertised as bliss, filtered sun, matching playlists, the ordinary magic of 2 people learning each other's grocery lists. The line between being cherished and being inventoried is a thin, bright thread you don't notice until it knots. His good morning texts learned to be floor checks, proof of life every hour. He met me outside work with a grin that styled itself as fate but functioned as a flag. I'd say, out with friends, and fate would materialize at the bar 3 minutes later, surprised to see me there. I explained it to myself as worry, because worry is curable. Ownership is not. The ask that lifted the mask came sounding like a seatbelt, let me install a tracker. Not an app. A real one so you can't turn it off. It would help me feel safe. There are sentences you hear and feel your future bending toward tools. I chose a different bend. We're done, I said. He cried, practiced, then went still. Stillness made me colder than tears ever could. I blocked his numbers and socials and told the front desk not to buzz anyone up for me after midnight no matter how much they knew my birthday. It felt adult. Adults still get doors opened without them. Texts from stranger numbers arrived like drips from a ceiling you pretend isn't leaking. Thinking about you. You home? Why are you like this? Block, block, block. Silence is only useful when both parties respect it. Silence around Dane felt like a dare. The house learned to mutter. A click in the foyer at 2. A whisper of door against jam when I know I closed it. I told the family chat I was hearing things. They sent tools, white noise apps, baseball bat emojis, the universal advice of sleep. Tools are not the same as walls. I'm a door closer. A light flicker. A checker and rechecker. After a weekend at my sister's, I unlocked, stepped in, and stopped. Every door, bedroom, bath, hall closet, stood slightly open, like a mouth forming a question. Not dramatic. Not vandalized. Just a new habit in a house that only has mine. Air moved as if it had been recently told to sit. The hall closet dared me nicely. I opened it and found exactly what should have been there. Wrongness stayed anyway, a quiet coin under the tongue. That night I wedged a chair under the bedroom knob, a makeshift brace you see in movies and swallow for comfort. I slid a small knife beneath my pillow. I left the lamp on. I gave the room every chance to tell me the truth. At some point, the light was off, and I don't remember telling it to be. Night edits. Night is good at edits. Motion came first, a rearranging in the air beside my feet that the body senses before the brain agrees. The door was opened by a hand's width. The chair was moved the way a sleeping person wouldn't. A darker dark lived at the end of the bed. Then fingers, warm, careful, already sure, walked up my ankles like they owned the map. Nothing in romance is as intimate as the wrong hand at the wrong hour. I screamed. A palm I recognized answered my mouth. Shoo, Dane said, patient, practiced, as if quiet were a test I could pass. He climbed into the mattress like a swimmer entering a pool at night, slow, line by line, claiming space by existing in it. I'm not here to hurt you. I want to talk. Words offered amnesty, weight did not. He lifted his hand to see whether I'd earn another. I chose air. How did you get in? I asked. He brightened. His science fair face. Months ago, during a sleep thick with trust, he'd fingered my keys off their ring, visited a kiosk, and duplicated the shape of permission. For emergencies, he said with a sincerity that made my teeth hurt. Emergencies where he decides I need rescuing from living without him. The knife was close enough that a brave person would have found it. I am not always brave. I am often strategic. He talked for half an hour about the parts of us he liked best, about versions of me who would have laughed at this, about apologies that were actually requests. I said the words that allowed him to leave thinking he had started a conversation rather than ended one. As the latch caught, I called the police and found, in speaking, a little oxygen. A detective lashed the stranger numbers to Dane's phone, one by one, until paper existed with my name and his on it in the arrangement that says stop. I moved, locksmith, new lease, new rituals, shoes by bed, keys on hook, 3 count for the lock. The first week I woke to test the chair. The second week I learned to sleep without it. The third week I replaced the bedroom door with one that accepts a bolt you can see across the room. If a hand says, don't scream, understand that it is the only truthful sentence in the room. If anyone wants to tag your life in the name of safety, translate safety out loud until it becomes control and watch your spine decide for you. Some fences are wooden. Some fences come in the shape of people. Both need maintenance. Both need locks. I keep a list now, not of grievances but of promises to myself. 1. I will not explain a boundary twice. 2. I will not turn the light off for someone else's comfort. 3. I will not mistake the absence of noise for the presence of peace. The list lives on the inside of the closet door, where old coats hang and new habits grow. 3. The letters that learned my routes. Marissa arrived like weather breaking, pressure drop, sky bright, the whole apartment cross-ventilated with new air. She specialized in gestures that look generous and feel inevitable, coffee delivered with my exact order down to the ice count, a book offhandedly mentioned appearing, ribboned, on the table, small notes on the mirror that turn mornings into scavenger hunts for kindness. Intensity can impersonate intimacy long enough to pass all the checkpoints. I signed off on the forgery with my whole heart. Intensity also eats. Replies feed it. When I lagged by an hour, her messages braided themselves into a rope. Are you okay? Where are you? I just need you safe. That twisted into why won't you answer me, into you always do this when I get close. Silence became heavy furniture she arranged in my living room, sitting for hours until I lifted it with the right words. Draw a boundary and watch her chair migrate to sit on it, ask for space and watch the air reduce to a closet. I performed empathy until it became apology, which is how you learn the difference between being kind and being available for extraction. She popped up outside work to see my face. The second time, because I had missed a call. The third time, with a lunchbox and a lie about coincidence so small it tried to pass under the door without knocking. That's how lines die, not with drama, but with 1,000 successful smuggles. When I finally said, no more, she didn't cry. She sharpened. You think it's over for you, she said. It isn't over for me. I swapped numbers, pleaded with management for a different unit, told myself the echo meant the room was clean. The first note was beige, paper, tone, intent. My name in square handwriting. Inside, I miss waking when the light skates across your closet door and your wall becomes a lake. Pretty words form knives too. The second did inventory. You clicked the lock 3 times, once with your left even though you're right-handed, which felt like being measured for a suit I didn't order. The third pressed into my week, blue hoodie Monday. Fix the sleeve before it tears. I had worn that hoodie across town in rain to a store staffed entirely by strangers who will never remember me. Someone else had. I took a job in Denver and told almost no one, treating information like currency I couldn't afford to spend. I drove a rental that smelled like other people's vacations. New number, new email, new windows that looked at mountains as if the mountains looked back kindly. I let quiet take off my armor one Velcro strip at a time. I posted a single photo of boots and sky and convinced myself anonymity had a shape. The white envelope in my P.O. box had no stamp and my new name written by someone who had practiced making letters like mine. Inside was a Polaroid, me, from behind, carrying 2 coffees into the building where nobody yet knew me. Snow tidied the edges. On the back, in careful red, your shoulders fold when you're tired. Somebody had kept step long enough to memorize slump. I moved across town again, more stairs, fewer windows, a landlady with 3 sons who treat weekends like a sport. I adopted a dog big enough to be my shadow and loud enough to be my alarm. I trimmed my online life to a thread, no faces, no views, only the weather and the occasional hand. Months turned smooth and stackable. I felt my face belonged to me again. Then a sticky note on my door, I don't like the beard. My beard had existed for 3 weeks. No one had seen it but me and video calls I keep camera off. I shaved because fear makes ritual out of change. In the morning, another note under the wiper, better. The police were kind. Without a face to point at, the law's hands were pockets. 2 weeks of the dog waking to a blank wall with a low engine in his throat. 2 weeks of doors that seemed to remember having been opened the night before. 2 weeks of learning which house noises were mine and which belonged to the air arriving from a body that didn't sign the lease. Then a wind-uncertain night where snow smelled like an idea. Footsteps outside, measured, patient, circling. Crunch, pause, crunch. Each window got read the way you read a locked diary, head tilted, breath shallow, eyes asking. Morning wrote the proof in white relief, tracks from pane to pane, a tidy circuit, no angles wasted. No letter this time. No photo. Silence louder than any note. I packed and drove back to an address that speaks fluent boundary, shared house, 3 veterans, porches with signs that do the introduction for you. My room is smaller. My sleep is bigger. Marissa is a storm people rename to avoid admitting it has a center. I can hold empathy for the weather and still build a better roof. Paper orders say stop. Paper doesn't stand outside at night and listen. So practical advice, ugly and true, don't justify your lines. Draw them with paint that stains. Change a lock the moment the sentence occurs. Rotate routes without narrating them. Teach your doors to ring chimes only you notice. Accept that some obsessions don't quit, they evolve. Your defense has to, too. If you feel watched, trust the animal in your ribs. The worst that happens is you waste courtesy on a night that didn't require it. The best is the morning arrives and finds you still owning your windows, your keys, and the unbroken hours between. And if you ever find a note taped neatly to your door, remember, handwriting is just another way footsteps learn your name.
Really scary stories, every day. Subscribe, like if you like.